Welcome to Inside Badger Nation on Madison CW. Now your hosts, Ben Wargle and Phil Dawson.
Welcome in to another edition of Inside Badger Nation. Phil and Ben with you again. Phil Dawson for the Big 1070 Radio here in Madison, joined as always by Ben Wargle, the editor and publisher of BadgerNation.com. And this week's episode, plenty of good stuff for you. We will jump deep into the recruiting weekend that was, and just what in the heck happened at that Penn State game this past Saturday. Plus, we'll take a look ahead at some Badger basketball, recap the week that was as well, and just what exactly are the Badger seniors saying about their time here playing for Gary Anderson and this Wisconsin Badger football team. That's where we start, Ben. Just what happened? I mean, so much went wrong for the first time in a long time, right? That we saw some real bad miscommunication. We saw some real porous defense, if you will, and on some occasion, what happened to this offense? As you see here, Penn State goes what no other team had been doing against the Badgers as of late, and that's scoring some touchdowns. They did so early and often.
Yeah, you really look at the game. I mean, Wisconsin loses by 7, only gets outgained by 6. But, I mean, other than the special teams, which is what you see here with Bo Allen getting a block, this was a really poor effort all the way around. I mean, the passing game, 3 interceptions by Joel Stave. He threw a couple of easy touchdown passes that kind of kept Wisconsin in the game early. But Wisconsin just did not look right defensively. I mean, they let Christian Hackenberg, a true freshman, pass for 339 yards and looked like Kerry Collins of the old Penn State teams.
Right.
And just, I mean, I get that Christian Hackenberg was the Big Ten Freshman of the Year and a really talented player, but this is a Penn State team that had been just throttled on the road in Big Ten play. They had not won a true road game until coming to Camp Randall. They lost to Minnesota on the road. They got killed at Ohio State. They gave up 63 points in that game and lost to Indiana on the road. And this Wisconsin team, without question, has a lot of depth, a lot of talent. And this was one of the big issues we saw with Wisconsin in the passing game. Missed opportunities. Joel Stave really struggled with the easy passes. Obviously, quarterback-center exchange issues. Just the whole offense looked disjointed, and the whole defense just did not come to play either. This was a big play in the game, too. Yeah. As you can see, Wisconsin driving in their own territory down 7. Big pass rush here on the outside. Stave doesn't see it coming, loses the football. This turned into a field goal for Penn State, but just had the sense that Wisconsin never was going to get a handle on this game.
You know, when they did fight back, they seemingly had a chance, but again, more turnovers, more problems. And really a lot of the issues, too, that we've never seen before from a Dave Aranda coach defense is some of that miscommunication, right? When they had 12 guys on the field, 11 on the field, a wide open receiver for Penn State left open at the goal line. How does that happen? And it's just so uncharacteristic of what we had seen throughout the year.
I forget to mention, one play they had only 9 guys on the field. And
right.
Tanner Mcevoy came up with a big touchdown-saving pass breakup to really save Wisconsin. Wisconsin later gave up a touchdown on that drive, but it just goes to show how Penn State threw a lot of curveballs in this game, a lot more up-tempo stuff than they'd seen. You mentioned the split-out wide receiver. Wisconsin was in a goal line situation where they had their goal line package out, and Penn State split out a wide receiver. According to Gary Anderson, Penn State had never done that before, and they couldn't get a timeout, led to an easy touchdown. Just simple communication issues that really cost Wisconsin this game defensively. But still, you look at the offense, just 24 points scored, missed opportunities, dropped passes. Joel Stave, I get that he threw for 339 yards. That's a career high.
But 50-plus pass attempts.
Just
you don't want
made
that
so many mistakes in this game, and really has a lot of people, especially in the fan base, questioning if Joel Stave is the right guy to lead this program down the road.
Well, and that kind of brings up our questions then about what's next for this team. Obviously, the BCS Bowl out of the question, as it seems. Not going to get a chance to play in either an Orange Bowl or a Sugar Bowl or whatever the case may have been had they had that opportunity and won this game. But then what's the next question, Ben? What is next, that bowl game? Is it a Capital One? Is it an Outback? And who will lead this team next year? Because you have a great recruit coming in and a DJ Gillens. Obviously, you would expect a Joel Stave to take a next step if he can. And Bart Houston, who really wasn't in the competition this year because of a surgery that he had in the offseason. So there are a lot of question marks going into next year. And you lose about 26 seniors, and a lot of them defensive starters.
And starting next year with LSU, too. So a lot of real question marks to dive into. I think first you look at the bowl game. Wisconsin had a great chance to make an Orange Bowl. I mean, you think they would have won, if they would have won this game, you would have certainly jumped into the top 14, which is needed to be under BCS consideration. That's gone now. So probably a good opportunity for Wisconsin to play in the Capital One Bowl if Ohio State beats Michigan State. I still think Michigan State is worthy of a BCS bowl game. You see how the Spartans have played this year. Mark D'Antonio is the coach of the year in the Big Ten. If the BCS takes both Ohio State and Michigan State, it's going to be Wisconsin in the Capital One Bowl, probably against the loser of the SEC title game. So you're Missouri or Auburn, maybe a South Carolina. If Michigan State doesn't go to a BCS game, I would think the Capital One Bowl would take Michigan State, and then Wisconsin would drop to the Outback Bowl, probably against maybe a South Carolina or even an LSU. So certainly they're going to go to Florida. They're going to play against a good SEC team to really cap off that season with that maybe that trademark win to really get this team moving forward. Now the question is, who's going to lead this team in the quarterback position next season? Do you have Joel Stave coming back? Bart Houston, a lot of people really like him. DJ Gillens is a true freshman. Can he come in and win the job? He's kind of the guy Gary Anderson wants, but still a true freshman. And then Tanner Mcevoy, what do you do with him? He's played so well at safety. Do they put him back and give him a chance to be the starting quarterback?
Lots of questions. We hope to get the answers soon. When we return, we will introduce you to some of the brand new recruits and visitors from this past weekend when IBN returns. Welcome back to Inside Badger Nation. Phil and Ben with you, and it was a huge week. Actually, since the last time that we taped and talked, the Wisconsin Badger football team got 4 brand new commitments. So it was a really busy week in the world of Gary Anderson, his coaching staff, and of course, us, and more so, Ben. Ben's going to run us through all of these guys that did commit, and we do start with this young man, Jacob Maxwell. Take a look here, 6'6", 275. Wisconsin native, another big boy for Gary Anderson and company.
Yeah, Phil, Wisconsin wants to build offensive line depth, and this is another under-the-radar kid right in the Badgers' backyard. He committed to Northern Illinois before his senior season, went out and had a great season. He led Greendale to a runner-up finish in the Division III state title game. He's a great-sized kid who is tough and physical. Maxwell said it himself. He brings a physical, nasty style to that offensive line, which is exactly what the Badgers need. He's technically sound and he plays hard. This is one case where having a great season, Phil, gets you an opportunity. As UW coaches really became convinced that Maxwell was scholarship worthy after his performance in the Division III state championship game against Jaden Galt, Monona Grove at Camp Randall. Keeping the best players in state is a priority at Wisconsin, and UW's first-year coach staff certainly has taken that message to heart. I believe he's going to end up to be a good fit for the Badgers, and he came on his unofficial visit, and basically they had 3 scholarships remaining on the offensive line. They want to get up to 15 for this class, or total 15 scholarship players. And Maxwell just went up on an unofficial visit day before Thanksgiving, just kind of fell in love with the place and just really embraced the opportunity to stay at home and play in-state for a program that just traditionally develops really good offensive linemen.
Well, and as we know too, Ben, that part of the recruiting process, especially getting these big kids that Wisconsin relies on, is keeping that fence around the state of those big kids, and this guy's certainly one of them. Meanwhile, how about TJ Edwards? Here's someone that quite the athlete out of Illinois, but how does he project here at Wisconsin?
Well, Wisconsin's had a lot of success with those under-the-radar players, like Desmond Southward, Jacob Patterson, Chris Borland, guys who weren't really that well-known in terms of being recruited, and Edwards certainly fits that. I mean, the Badgers came in and offered Edwards, who was committed to Western Michigan at the time after his senior season, after reviewing some of his film, and you can see why. And he's a very talented player. He's going to project to be kind of a linebacker for Wisconsin. I like him kind of because he's just one of those hard-nosed athletes, one of those very talented athletes that you could really tell that he plays with downhill, plays with a lot of aggression. He's a guy that really hadn't heard from Wisconsin until about 3 or 4 weeks ago, but tight end coach Jeff Jenick saw his film, invited him onto campus, offered him, and then committed on that Wednesday, the same day as Jacob Maxwell. And this is going to be a good find for Wisconsin. He probably has a chance to play early. I mean, he's a guy who's played a number of positions. You saw him, we have him listed as a quarterback, but has that knowledge of what to do when he's on the field. Missed some time this year with a torn meniscus in his right knee. Had a thumb issue too, but still over 1,000 yards, led his team to an 8-1 record. Very talented guy, and people might not be wowed because he's just a 2-star athlete or a low 3-star athlete. And like the guys I mentioned before, Patterson, Borland, and those were 2-star athletes coming out of high school, and I think they've turned out pretty good too. So TJ Edwards, I'm anxious to see more of what this kid can do, and I think he's going to be another nice addition to Wisconsin's recruiting class. Another
kid who kind of where can he slot in is Darian Watkins, a kid that I think played receiver but can play the DB. We talked about him just last week, right? And here he is. Now he's a Badger.
Our IBN's most wanted hits another one.
Boom!
I mean, he's a kid who has long been on Wisconsin's radar. Chris Beatty, extremely persistent with him, continued to recruit him after Watkins had committed to Northwestern. He's a guy, a really good-sized kid with athleticism and the experience of playing several positions on the field, a lot like TJ Edwards. Even though he hasn't played a lot of wide receiver, he played primarily quarterback all last season for his team. He has good hands and a great skill set, and that obviously goes a long way in determining athletes. This is some wide receiver film with him. He has the ideal build and shown good open field ability as a quarterback. And the little bit that he's played wide receiver in the season and in camps, he's shown good ability to catch the football, which is key. Wisconsin could have used him against Penn State on Saturday when he was on his official visit instead of being in the stands. Strong kid who can break tackles, who's tough and competitive. He'll just need to adjust and learn the position, but he has a chance to play early just because of the lack of depth at Wisconsin's wide receiver position.
Yeah, and we can see that there will be some opportunity there for him next year should he be a wide receiver. Another big boy up front. Let's talk about Micah Kapoy. How big is this kid?
Well, he's from Hawaii, and he's 298 pounds, probably even a little bit over that now. And, you see a Hawaiian kid commit to Wisconsin who was originally committed to Hawaii. Just kind of shows that this staff is willing to go anywhere to get players and willing to kind of recruit players who are still committed to other schools. This is the 6th player in the Wisconsin 2014 recruiting class who was committed to another school before flipping to Wisconsin. After seeing the game, he was on official visit on Saturday. He loved the campus, the program, everything about it. He said that the cold weather or the distance wasn't a factor for him. He just wanted to find a place that was home, a good family atmosphere, and a good opportunity to play at a high level. And that's certainly at Wisconsin. He's a tough guy. He knocks guys over. That's Wisconsin football's MO for a number of years. His strength is run blocking, which also fits what Wisconsin likes to do. He's going to probably play at the guard position for Wisconsin, but this is just another great example that Wisconsin's willing to go anywhere to find great talent for their program.
Yeah, we'll see if he can block for some of these young runners in the near future. Plenty to take a look forward for these Wisconsin Badgers, and of course we'll take a look at some Badger hoops when we come back here in a little bit. We're going to jump back into football next as Gary Anderson wrapped up his first season here and his Badgers seniors graduating and finishing off. We'll hear from them when we return. This is IBM. Gary Anderson's first season here with Wisconsin, a successful one. They go 9-3 to start off. His first year, his campaign, the era of Anderson, Gar Anderson, if you will. What do his seniors have to say about him and his players as they were meeting the media earlier this week, talking about just the impact that they've had so far on them and the rest of this Wisconsin program?
I love everything about the coaching staff. Normally we don't have a lot of interaction with the defensive staff, but we see them on a daily basis, and they're, hey, what's up? How's it going? Just the care factor with this group. They really care about you on the field. They care about you in the classroom. They care about you in life. Every single thing about them. They're just overall good coaching staff, and the care factor is one thing, but they're great coaches. They do their job to a T. They got everyone prepared for games, and I wouldn't change them for the world.
I think initially you don't know what to expect. There's so many things that a head coach does and so many things he implements in his program that you kind of learn, each time, each new thing, how he likes to run certain aspects of the program. But I'd heard a lot of great things about him, and I hope they were true. I think he has surpassed those and reaffirmed those thoughts. So. Yeah, it's been really impressive.
It's definitely surpassed my expectations. Coach Anderson, he's done a great job with it, made it as smooth as possible. He's a guy that's a player's coach, and he's looked for our best interest the whole season. So, we can ask for anything more.
Certainly an impact Gary Anderson, the rest of the coaching staff had on those seniors. And, when you think about these seniors, 25-3 in their 4 years, an incredible run that they have had. What jumps out to you about this coaching staff, the transition that was made, and the way that these seniors really handled it?
Well, 25-3 at home kind of speaks to it, how good this team was this season. And, take the Penn State game aside, the transition went about as seamless and flawless as you could imagine. This is a team that kind of got stagnant last season under Brett Bielema and his staff, went 8-6. got into the Rose Bowl in the Big Ten championship game on a technicality by Ohio State and Penn State being ineligible. So this is a program that kind of was, maybe heading towards a downward spiral a little bit, but Gary Anderson comes in, switches around the offense a little bit, does a whole makeover of the defense, moving from a 4-3 to a 3-4, and their defense, for the most part this season, has been outstanding. That's been their backbone. That's why they won 6 games this season through the heart of the Big Ten stretch. And so I'm really excited to see what's going to happen when Gary Anderson and Dave Aranda and the rest of the staff kind of get their own players that they recruit into the system. I think that could really make Wisconsin to a really bona fide national contender for a number of years.
Yeah, and the seniors are what made this team tick, and what can we find out from them, not just about Gary Anderson, but what it meant to them to be a Badger. With more, hearing more from your Badger seniors.
Well, I think we have a big senior class, first of all, and then we have guys with a lot of experience, great character guys that show great leadership, and I think they've led this team very well.
We got a big senior class and some great leaders that I know the young guys look up to. So if you buy in at the top, I'm sure the young guys would follow, and that's kind of what's happened here.
Obviously, it's a lot easier when you come in and you got these many seniors to kind of tell everyone, hey, this is what we're going to have to do. This senior class kind of knew all the things that unraveled last year, and we knew that, hey, we can't have that happen again if we want to have a good senior year.
Knowing that we still had a lot of opportunity out there. Our season wasn't over. I mean, if we wanted to be a great team, we wanted to go out and win the rest of our games to give ourselves an opportunity to be that great team. And now we have one game left in order to make that statement.
Basically, it's just a tight-knit group all the way around, and you got to have every piece of the puzzle to be successful.
I feel like we've had a lot of success and have done it the right way, so it's something we can be proud of regardless of whether this class goes down in history.
And that's kind of the guy that represents the senior class, is it not, Ben? Chris Borland, who was named the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, a ridiculous achievement for a guy that has been ridiculous in his entire career at the University of Wisconsin. He's kind of the leader. He's kind of the guy that you will remember probably more so than anyone else from this team.
Defensive Player of the Year, Linebacker of the Year, first team All Big Ten. I mean, what more can you do? Except he wasn't nominated for the Butkus Award.
For
he
some odd
didn't make the
reason.
finalists of the Butkus Award list. But you look at other guys too that weren't featured. I mean, Bo Allen and Pat Muldoon and Tyler Dipple, all the guys that really anchored that defensive line. Those guys were huge for Wisconsin. They're going to be missed. Desmond Southward didn't have the best season, but kind of was the leader of that group that really made some big strides in the offseason. Jared Abbrederis, first 1,000-yard wide receiver, I believe, in 8 years for Wisconsin. He was a first-team All-Big Ten selection. Ryan Groy, another first-team All-Big Ten selection at left guard. This was an offensive line that didn't have kind of the more heralded names that we've seen in years past with like a Travis Frederick or a Peter Kahns or a Gabe Carimi or a John Moffitt, but still a very productive offensive line that's going to be even better next year, I think, with the year of season that they had. Connor O'Neill and Ethan Armstrong, kind of two under-the-radar linebackers. This is just such a really talented group, and a group that's won 39 games in their career. If they win the bowl game, they'll tie the 2007 and 2012 team for most wins in a 4-year span of a senior class, and just a really good group. And it's a group that probably made the transition from Brett Bielema to Gary Anderson even that more seamless, just because these seniors knew what they needed to do in order to make a program successful, and they certainly have done that this year.
Yeah, and we will find out if they can take the bowl victory with them home. And then we look at next year, because you're losing all of these seniors, obviously. So then who has to step into that role of leadership next year when you lose guys like Abbrederis, Borland, etc.?
Well, you certainly need a Melvin Gordon to step up and be the number one tailback. You're going to need someone to step up at the wide receiver position, because without Jared Abbrederis these last 2 years, where would Wisconsin be in their passing game? Certainly the front seven is going to have an entire makeover. You lose all the linebackers, the defensive linemen. A lot of pieces that need to be placed. Good thing they have a bunch of spring football practices in the next couple months to kind of figure out where they're going to be.
All right, from the gridiron to the hardwood, we talk hoops next. This is IBN. We invite you to check out us on YouTube. Lots of videos there of Ben and I talking Badgers. Inside Badger Nation is what you got to search for. All kinds of old episodes. You can find out great film as well of all the incoming Badger recruits and who they're after. Plus, follow us on Twitter @InBadgerNation. Keep you up to date on what's going on with the program. And email the show, InsideBadgerNation@gmail.com. We do it each and every week. Our email of the week this week, courtesy of 608 Restaurant and Bar, 212 State Street, as it is every week. Visit 608 Restaurant and Bar, where 608 is more than just an area code. And our question, courtesy of Eric in Columbus, says, what players do you guys think will lead the Badger basketball team to another win in the games against Virginia and Marquette? As you know, we've taped this while Virginia is happening Marquette, though, and how about we look back too, Ben? How about we take a look back at the team, at the players that have helped this Badger basketball team get off to their 8-0 start, as it were. And where do you want to start? Frank Kaminsky obviously might be the biggest name that we can bring up because he's had a tremendous season, but you have 5 guys in that starting lineup averaging double figures.
Yeah, I think Sam Deckers is going to be a big key. I mean, he's shooting 50% from the field. His three-point shooting has gotten better. His defense has gotten better. He had a double-double against West Virginia to help Wisconsin win the Cancun Challenge. And I think you've seen the maturation of like a Ben Bruss. The more well-rounded he is. I think Josh Gosser has been really talented. I think the key though for Wisconsin, if they want to win against Marquette at home, is Trayvon Jackson, a guy who's been struggling with the shot a little bit, but really has got a great assist-to-turnover ratio, and a guy who has been really smart with where the basketball is going, has been crashing the glass a little bit. He's been limiting his fouls, his foolish play. Ever since kind of the Florida game where he had the bad half against Florida with 4 turnovers, he's been really stingy. I think that's been key. And you look back a year when Wisconsin played at Marquette, Trayvon Jackson did not play well, had some turnovers. You look at missed free throw opportunities. He took a lot of heat on himself after that game, and I think from that point to where we are now, he has grown tenfold as a basketball player. And if he can just get his shot going and shoot, above 40%, 50% would be great, but just kind of notch up that shooting percentage, Wisconsin will be a nice, well-rounded team, even though they are pretty much a really solid basketball team as it is right now.
Let me ask you this, Ben, because as you know, Bo Ryan teams, they make the NCAA tournament. That certainly is an expectation for this squad. But after the start that they've been on, the talent that we've seen, we're a couple of weeks into the basketball season. What should that expectation of this team be? Is the second weekend an Elite Eight? Is there more that this team can potentially do, and what should be the expectation?
I think the expectation is still to be competitive in the Big Ten. I think Wisconsin can win the Big Ten. I mean, you look at how talented this conference is. I mean, Wisconsin's right up there. I mean, 8th in the country this year. I mean, look at the wins on their resume, and they're having another great opportunity on Saturday for another marquee win against Marquette. Then after that, the schedule kind of lightens up a little bit. You got Milwaukee, then you got an Eastern Kentucky team, then you got 2 weeks off for Prairie View A&M. Then you go into conference play, as you see here, against Northwestern, which is on the road. And then you get into a big slew of good conference games. Michigan, Minnesota won their Big Ten Challenge game this week. Ohio State in February. The Big Ten's going to be a grind each and every week for Wisconsin. So if you want to finish off this non-conference season strong and then go into that little 2-week break as that little tester before Prairie View A&M, this team is in the right spot. Just got to show up some things defensively. You got to be a better rebounding team, more solid on the glass, and just got to keep shooting the basketball well. Too many times last year we saw Wisconsin go through prolonged scoring droughts, and knock on wood, that hasn't happened yet this year. And so if Wisconsin can continue distributing the basketball, get a lot of players involved, and Frank Kaminsky is still playing at that high level he is in the post, Wisconsin is going to be a very, very competitive team this year. It can go far in the NCAA tournament.
All right, quick final answer for you. We only got like 30 seconds. Was the Badger football season a success? Did they meet expectations?
I think they did. I mean, you look at they're 9-3. I think to surpass expectations, you win your bowl game for the first time in a number of years. They haven't won a bowl game since the Champs Sports Bowl. That Arizona State game still a sticking point. I think this team a little bit better than 9-3, but still a very good football team.
We will see you next time on IBN. For Ben, I'm Phil. See you there.